Okay, sorry about that, folks. I heard you could not see my slides. So here they are. So here are the goals that I had just gone over. And so the slides just had text on them, so you weren't missing a lot. I apologize for that. So here's an image of that window cling I was describing. And so on ours, we've got a neighbor's name and it has their address. So a first responder or somebody coming to our house could actually, they would know where to take our pets. I can also provide you with a refrigerator magnet. Often first responders, when they come into a house, they look on the refrigerator. Here you can put a little bit more detail, all the pets' names, your contact info, the vet's info. I've got a space for notes on there. So for example, you could put a note like, we have a cat and he usually hides in the bedroom closet when he's afraid, something like that. And then I also have emergency wallet cards. And I've got mine in my wallet right behind my driver's license. So if, for example, I ended up in an emergency room, assuming they would look for my driver's license, they would find this card right behind it. And on my card, I actually have my husband's name, assuming we wouldn't be together, and he has my name and info, so the other person would get the call. And you can see on this, on the back of the card, if this box is checked, I have made arrangements for Animal Humane New Mexico to receive my pets. So that call would come to me or somebody else here at Animal Humane and in our department. And if your plan is for your pet to come to us, hopefully you've let us know that. And we have the pet agent information on record because we keep all the information pet owners give us in this case. Then I would make a call to that person and say, we just heard that so-and-so was in the hospital. Could you please check on their pets? Another resource that I haven't personally used, but somebody else has told me about, I just want to share with you, is called IamFine.com. And what they do, I think it's $14.99 a month. It's less if you sign up for a year, is they make a check-in call to you every day. And if you don't answer the phone, then they have a list of folks that you've given them that they will start calling to check on you. And as you can see from this screenshot from their website, they also will take into account if you've told them that you have pets and you have given them an emergency contact, particularly for your pets, they will call that contact. So something to consider. So in terms of longer term planning for your pets, so this would be the permanent adopter that you've identified or a rescue group like Animal Humane. And a main tool that I share with people for this phase of planning are something we've developed called pet planning profiles. And I will be sharing links for these in the follow-up email. So here at Animal Humane, we take cats and dogs. So we have a feline and a canine profile. However, these profile questions would really work for any kind of animal that you have. And what this is really a list of questions to get you thinking about what would be important information for your next pet's adopter to know about them, or for Animal Humane or another rescue group to know about them if we were taking care of them and then finding a new adoptive home. It's a long list front and back. I tell people, don't worry about answering all of the questions. Just answer the questions that are relevant for your pet. So we receive pets at Animal Humane every day, from strays and owner surrenders and transfers. And most of the time, we don't know that much, if anything, about their background. We have processes here to find out about their personalities and what kind of home might be best for them. But very often adopters ask us, has this pet lived with other cats or dogs, or has this pet lived with children? And usually we don't know. So if you can think of that information and put it in writing, it's very helpful, as you can imagine. And so I've had some people, I've got some examples here of what other people have done. This person, for example, wrote a blurb about each pet and has given us a photo. This person did a spreadsheet and highlighted the items that he thought were the most important and also provided a photo. I tell people, please don't get overwhelmed by this. You don't have to have all of it compiled before you share it with me. If your pet would be coming to us, you're welcome to just start sharing things as you think of them with me. You can send me emails, and what I do is I gather and collate all of this information. I keep paper and digital files for all of these cases. Or I even tell people, if you don't want to do any typing, I'm happy to just sit down with you and I can take the notes and type them up, so if you don't want to do that. So you can imagine how helpful this would be to your pet's next parent. So some frequently asked questions that I get over the years as I've been talking to people are, a big one that comes up is, if Animal Humane is taking my pet, do they have to actually go live in your shelter? And for us, the answer is yes. And that is because if your pet is coming to us, they're our pet at that point. And we want them here with us because this is where we'll be able to take care of them. This is where we provide all of the behavioral support, all the veterinary care, and this is where we can monitor their well-being. And this is where the adopters come and where they would be meeting them. Can you come pick up my pet? No, we cannot come pick up your pet. And that is why that pet agent role is particularly important. Will you keep bonded pets together? The answer is yes, we will. If pets come in together and we know that they are bonded, we will keep them together for as long as it takes. It can take bonded pets longer sometimes, but we don't have any limitation on length of stay. However, I will say that we have had a few instances where we're told pets are bonded and we do keep them here and we notice that they're actually not doing well together. They might start fighting with each other. And we have a behavior department team and they are experts in this, and they will do an evaluation to see if it's recommended to what we call unbond pets. So if they recommend that, we will unbond them and put them up for adoption separately. Do I have to include a gift in my will to Animal Humane New Mexico? And so now I've been talking really about the logistics of the transition for your pet, and really the rest of this presentation is going to focus more on questions that come up about finances and estate planning and leaving money for your pets in your will. No, you do not have to leave a gift for Animal Humane in your will if your pet is coming here. It certainly is very helpful, and it certainly helps not just with the care of your pet, but it also helps with our mission in our work, providing new homes, rescuing and adopting out homeless pets. So a few of you did submit questions ahead of time, and I just wanted to address those. One question was, is pet health insurance worth it? This is a very good question, and I've done some reading on this. And for the person who submitted this question, I actually have a good article on Forbes.com titled, "Is Pet Insurance Worth It?" that I will send to you after this presentation. And in everything I've read, really nobody comes out and says a definitive yes or no, because it depends. And it really boils down to a cost-benefit decision for you. And that's based on considerations such as, what kind of pet insurance are you interested in? So for example, there's injury or accident insurance. That is separate from illness insurance. So accident insurance doesn't cover an illness like an upper respiratory infection or gum disease, but it does cover a fracture or poison ingestion. Some pet insurances cover wellness, so routine vet care and checkups. And they have different deductibles that make the insurance more or less expensive. So in this article that I'll be sending you, it does help you kind of think through the considerations. Certainly a major benefit could be just your peace of mind. It might be worth it just to have that peace of mind. And certainly the cost or the risk is with any insurance is that you pay for it and you don't end up necessarily getting your money back, but that's a good thing if your pet never has an emergency health situation. So another question is, if we have more than one pet, can we refer collectively to them as pets, or do we have to refer to them by name? So I assume this question is referring to, can we refer to our pets collectively in our will? And I have a couple examples coming up. You can do either, and there are advantages and disadvantages to each that I will talk about in a minute. And the other question is really the big question. How do I leave enough money for my pets? This person has 2 dogs and 2 horses. So I will answer both of those questions. So when it comes to tools for leaving money for your pets, there are 3 main ways to do this, and they range from the most formal to the least formal. The most formal is using a pet trust. So a pet trust is the most formal because it provides the most control. It is, of the other forms I'm going to be talking about, is the only one that's actually legally enforceable. So if that's important to you, this would make a pet trust attractive. And a pet trust gives you the opportunity to really describe in detail what kind of care you are requiring in order for your next pet's adopter to receive money from your trust. It is usually set up by an estate professional, an estate attorney, because it is legally enforceable. A pet trust, something to keep in mind, it requires that the trustee or the person who's administering the trust is completely separate from the pet owner or adopter. That is a big advantage of a pet trust, is those things are separate. And in everything I've read about pet trusts, it seems like it's always assumed that you have a friend or family member that you trust to be the administrator or the trustee. So this person agrees to fulfill this role, and they are different from the pet adopter. Sometimes I talk to people and they want to set up a pet trust, but they actually don't have somebody they can pick who agrees to do this. So there are professional trust companies who will do this for a fee for you. Outfits like Zia Trust is a big one here. Wells Fargo has a trust division. So if you're going that route, these companies do charge an annual fee to administer these trusts. And the dollar amounts, I'm not sure what they are. It might depend on how complicated is your trust. Are there multiple animals that the trust is for? Some trust companies might have a minimum value for any trust that they're willing to manage. But that might be worth it to you to pay a professional company to do this. Again, to have that control and that peace of mind for your situation. One thing, and an estate professional can help you put in what the requirements are in terms of, you can get as detailed as, for example, I want my pet to be fed this kind of food for the rest of his life. I want my pet to go to this veterinarian. I want my dog to go to daycare twice a week. You would want to have in there a requirement that your trustee is able to do regular inspections to ensure, one, that your pet is still alive, and two, that your pet is still in that person's household. So pet trusts, as I'm describing, they are more bureaucratic. And you would also need to think through, how does the pet owner actually receive money from the trust? Do they have to collect receipts for all of their expenses and then submit those to the trustee to get reimbursement? Is that how you want to set it up? Do you want them to get a lump sum every month for expenses that are over a certain dollar amount? Would you want the adopter to get pre-approval ahead of time before they spent money on your pet? So these are things that an estate attorney would help you think through. You would want to designate a beneficiary. If you put money in the trust, your pet passes away, and there's money left over, you can leave instructions that any money that is remaining would go to this person or would be donated to a nonprofit like Animal Humane. So the other more common thing that we see is people leaving money in their will. Since I've been here, we've never actually had a pet come to us for which there has been a trust established. And if, for example, you did set up a trust for your pet and your pet was coming here to Animal Humane, the way I imagine that would work is once your pet was adopted, once we knew somebody had already decided to adopt your pet, we would let them know at that time if there was a trust. We wouldn't let adopters know ahead of time. We don't want to risk somebody would adopt your pet just because there was trust money available. We would let them know that, by the way, this dog's or cat's previous owner has left a trust that you may be able or want to access. Here is the information, and we would give them the contact information for the trustee. It would be up to that adopter whether or not they wanted to actually avail themselves of that trust benefit. So the next way you can leave money for your pets is in a will. This is less formal. So I have some examples here of language, and you can see in this example, I have put in the pet's names. So for example, I leave my heel or mix Buster X dollars to this person in the hope that they use the money to take care of my pet. If John Smith does not survive, then they've got a second person, so a backup also with that dollar amount. So in this example, you can see we have in there, with the hope the money will be used for Buster's care. And that is because, unlike a trust, if you leave money for the care of your pet in your will, it is not legally enforceable. There is no law enforcement agency or entity that is going to check on whether or not John or Jenny actually spend that money on your pet. So in this example, you would want to leave money to somebody that you trust would use the money the way you're telling them you want it spent. So why would you go this route? Well, you would go this route because maybe you do have somebody you trust and you feel you don't need that extra control and those hoops to jump through that you do with a trust. And it's certainly a less expensive route, because if you're making a will anyway, you don't have to set up a separate trust just for your pet. So this is an example. If your pet is coming to Animal Humane, I leave my heel or mix Buster to Animal Humane and X dollars for the general purposes of the organization. So you'll see I don't have in here for the care of my pet. And I ask people not to restrict any gift just to the care of their pet. And that is because your pet may not be with us that long. We may not spend all the money that you leave to us on your pet. So this gives us the flexibility to use your generous gift to support our mission. And on the flip side, if you leave us a dollar amount, we are not going to restrict our care of your pet to how much money you left us. If you left us a certain dollar amount and your pet maybe is with us for a long time or needs a lot of expensive veterinary care, we're not going to stop caring for your pet because your gift has run out. So that's why I have it worded this way. So in this example, you can see we don't have the particular pets named. It's very general. I leave any pets I may have at the time of my passing to such and such person. So this is certainly straightforward, and you would go this route so you don't have to keep updating your will every time your pets change. If you do this, however, I suggest you do maintain a separate list that does have current information about your pets. And I'll give you an example of why I recommend this. We had a case a few years ago where we received in the mail a packet and it had a gentleman's will, and the person had died about 6 months ago, and I was just receiving the will now, and the will had been written about 10 years ago. And in the will, this person had left us his home and the contents of his home, which was very generous. We didn't know he had done that. He hadn't let us know. And then I got to the very end of this document, and there was a blurb at the end that said, "And I leave to Animal Humane 2 dogs and a couple of turtles that are in the yard." So you can imagine my panic at reading this, because I started worrying, well, what's happened to these dogs and these turtles? And he said 2 dogs, but didn't say 2 or 3 turtles. So we didn't really know how many turtles there were. And then also, if he had communicated this to us, we would have told him, well, we don't actually take turtles. So let's find out a rescue group or somebody who would be able to take your turtles. So for a few days, there was a lot of concern about exactly what had happened to these animals. To make a long story short, as it turned out, there weren't any pets at his house at the time that he passed away. So everything was fine. But it would have been good if he had had some kind of supplement that if you do this, keep an updated list with that pet agent or with your personal representative. That's definitely what I would recommend. Something else to keep in mind, if you're using a will to leave money for the care of your pet, that money will not be distributed until the probate of your will is completed. And that can take months to years. So another tool you can use to leave money for your pet that is more immediate is to make somebody or some entity, a rescue group, if you're going that route, the beneficiary of, say, a savings account, a retirement account, a stock investment account, or a life insurance policy, because those kinds of beneficiary distributions, they bypass probate and they go directly to the beneficiary. So that is a nice option. It's actually a nice option for the rest of your estate planning if you have those kinds of accounts. Make beneficiary designations and they don't have to go through probate with your will. So a big question then is, well, how much money do I leave in a trust or to care for my pet? And what I have developed is something that is a worksheet that might be able to help you. You have to make a guess based on the lifestyle that you've provided for your pet and that you want to continue for your pet while past your life. So in this example, this is just an example I made up. So my dog Wheatley is 7 years old, and I estimate that I hope he'll live to be 14 years old. So let's say, worst case scenario, I passed away next week. I want to provide for 7 years of his care. So I looked at, what might be annual costs for food, treats, toys, veterinary care, emergency care. I've got 500. Let's say a typical pet might end up in the emergency room every 3 or 4 years. So what would a $2,000 vet bill break out to every few years? I've got in there pet sitting. If I go on a trip, let's say I go on 3 one-week trips a year, I take them to a pet sitter. I know how much that costs. Let's say you take your dog to doggy daycare 2 times a week. How much does that cost per year? Maybe you do a training course every year with your dog. How much would cremation or burial be over? That would be a one-time expense, but I've broken it into an annual cost and other things. So I've got a total here of $8,155, and then I multiplied that by 7 to come up with $57,000. So that could be a place for me to start if I am putting money into a trust, or if I am setting up an account just for the care of Wheatley, or I'm putting it in my will, I guess. So let's say I set up a savings account just for this purpose. I named as the beneficiary the person who's agreed to adopt my pet. Every year, as Wheatley's life expectancy goes down each year, I could then start taking out $8,000 a year to make that adjustment. Or I could just leave it at $57,000 and have a secondary and just tell the beneficiary that you'll get whatever is left in this account regardless. So what you're hearing me describe overall, I would say, is to think through the scenarios of what you want for your pet. Think about it in some detail. Think about who could help you make your wishes a reality. Communicate with everyone involved. Make sure that they agree and understand your wishes and agree to help make them happen and comply with them, and then put it in writing. So a tool that we have to help, if you go to our website, and I'll send a link for this in my follow-up email. If you go to our website, we've got a section called Legacy Giving. And you can see here that the first tab is information about naming animal humane in your will. And the second tab there, it says create a will today for free. And we have partnered with a platform called freewill.com that is free to anyone, whether they're including us in their will or not. And the tool lets you make a will, a simple will that is legal in as few as 20 minutes. And the folks at Free Will developed the tool to address the reasons that 60% of people say that they don't have a will, including many people find it overwhelming or say they don't have time. They just don't know how to make a will. They assume it's going to be expensive. They don't want to work with an attorney, or they don't have an attorney. Maybe they don't see the need because they think they don't have enough assets to make it worthwhile. So freewill.com has set up a site that we can share with you. And they've done a really good job of setting it up so it's very user-friendly. It's very intuitive. It's all based really on multiple choice questions. And as you click through it and answer the questions, it starts building a will, a custom will for you that reflects your wishes. And so this is one of the, I've got some screenshots here to show you, just to give you an idea of what the environment looks like. Are you single, married, or in a domestic partnership? What do you estimate your total estate is worth? And for us, they've included a section on pet planning, which is really great. So it asks, do you have pets that you want to provide for in your will? If you answer yes, then it opens up a section of questions to walk you through that. What are the names of your pets? What kind of animals are they? how much do you want to leave for their costs, and then in order of preference, who should be responsible for taking care of your pets. It also asks you if you would like to leave a gift to Animal Humane New Mexico in your will. As I said, it's not required to use this tool. And also, we do not receive your information from freewill.com if you use this tool unless you give permission. So you are anonymous to us unless you let us know. Certainly, if your plan is for your pet to come to us, we do want to know. We definitely want to know. You can also leave a gift to pretty much any nonprofit in the world, as long as they're a 501c3 through freewill.com. And you can even put instructions for funeral wishes. So for example, instead of flowers, you want people to make a donation to a nonprofit, you can do that here. And then when you get to the end, they pop up, it spits out a complete will that's captured all of your wishes, and you can print this out and sign it. And then it takes you through, okay, now you've gone through this process. Here's what you do. You can sign it, you can save it. You can also go back and use the tool to make updates. It does save it for you. So you go back and you go through. It won't let you change the document. They don't want you to change the document because they know it's formatted to be legally valid. So if you do have changes, you go back, you go through those questions, make the changes, and then it will pop up a new document for you. And then it also gives you some other options. Do you want to notify everyone that you've named in your will? If you do, you can send an email directly from freewill.com. And then it asks, you can see there on the end, well, do you want to take all of this information to an attorney? So you can use this information, this tool, if you are working with a lawyer. But what it can help you do for free is to organize your thoughts and your information, print it out and bring it with you to your appointment, and maybe that'll help you save some time working with your attorney. And if you're not sure if you should see an attorney, they have these examples. If any of these things are going on for you, yeah, you might want to work with an attorney. For example, are you going through a divorce? Do you think anyone will contest your will or your wishes? So I think that's very helpful. And you might want to do this if you definitely are going to be working with an attorney, but it's some point in the future and you just want something to cover you during that, to bridge that gap until you actually meet with an attorney and have them do a will for you. If you do include Animal Humane in your estate plans and you let us know, you become a member of our Constant Companion Society. And every year we do a recognition piece for all the bequest gifts we have received. They are a very important part of supporting our mission. So we're very grateful for all of these gifts. And if you've been to our campus, maybe you've seen it. If you come for a tour, I'm happy to show it to you. And the installation, the piece includes the name of all of the donors from the previous year. And then if we know what kind of pet you had, or if we even have a picture, that's even better. You can see here our artist, our tile artist, she's in Corrales, will actually make a portrait of your pet and put it next to your name. This is a very pretty part of our campus. It's a park-like setting. So thank you. I think we have time for questions. If any have come in, I apologize for the fact that you couldn't see my slides at the start. Our pets can't do the planning. If they were cats, we all know if they started planning, they would end up probably just taking a nap on your keyboard. So thank you. And again, I'm happy to talk to anybody in person or one-on-one about your particular questions. And I guess Erica can let us know if we've had any questions submitted.
Hi, Stephanie. The only question that we've had a few requests to send out the pet planning info, but the big question is, and I'm not sure if they mean here at the shelter or well, looking for a pet agent, but what happens if no one to your pets if no one wants them?
Well, if they come here, we do find homes for every adoptable pet. So we've never had a pet that just no one wanted. We will ensure that they have an outcome where they end up in a home. I assume this question might be coming from the perspective of you don't want your pet coming to Animal Humane or a rescue group, and you don't have any friend or family that you've identified to take your pet. So in that case, if you have not made any arrangements because you can't find anybody and you haven't made arrangements with us or with any other rescue group, what would happen, and this probably does happen because there are certainly many situations where someone passes away and they haven't made any plans, no friends or neighbors know what you want for your pet. The Animal Welfare Department of Albuquerque, they're the ones who are deputized and have the legal authority and the obligation to come and take that pet. And they would take that pet into the Albuquerque shelter. And just like us, they would do everything they could to find an adoptable home for your pet. We have here in Albuquerque achieved live release or no kill status. So we partner closely with the city of Albuquerque, and they do find homes for I think it's over 90% of their pets. But if I still haven't answered your question, please give me a call. We can continue talking. Basically, you would need to find somebody, whether it's a rescue group or an individual. So not sure if that answers your question. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, but let me know.
And then we've received a few more. So
Okay.
we have a question that asks, do you keep the pets from Animal Humane that go in the shelter if no one adopts? There's no chance of them being euthanized, right?
So we do not have any limitation on how long a pet can be here, length of stay or for space. We don't euthanize for space or time. We do euthanize, and I'll tell you what our euthanasia process is. That is a question that does come up. So we follow a standard that is called the 5 freedoms for animal welfare. And that includes things like freedom from pain, freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom of natural movement, freedom from stress. So if an animal is in our shelter and either for medical or behavioral reasons, we cannot provide all of those 5 freedoms, we will euthanize. So for example, if a pet has, this is the most common reason for euthanasia, if they have a medical condition that is causing them stress and pain, maybe even if the condition is manageable, but the treatment is still so stressful to the pet that they won't live without stress or pain, we will make the decision to euthanize. Those veterinary euthanasia decisions are made by our staff veterinarians using these guidelines. Less common is a euthanasia for behavior, and that is usually almost always related to if a pet we feel is going to be a threat or a danger if it is let out into the community as a pet. They are aggressive in situations that are very common and likely to occur. And so that is a group decision. We have an interdepartmental team that comes together and they go into detail. They look at every possible outcome for a pet. And if it's decided that a pet would just be too dangerous to adopt out, we will euthanize. But any adoptable pet will not be euthanized regardless of how long they're here. So I hope that answers that question to your satisfaction.
And then we have another question, Stephanie, that is, if you use free will, but then life circumstances change, can you go back and alter your will?
Yes, you can. So you can create a login and you can go back in and right now their model is Animal Humane is paying them an annual subscription rate in order to offer this service, but separate from us. Let's say we canceled our subscription and we no longer had an Animal Humane site. You could still go back into Free Will's website. They will save it. You're their customer, really, and you can make changes and print out an updated will.
Okay, thank you. And the last question that we have is, if I do not have any family to leave my belongings to, did you say I could leave all of them to Animal Humane as a beneficiary to avoid probate?
You can, but property, like if you're thinking of furniture or collections, those cannot bypass property. They have to be left in a will. The only type of instruments that can bypass probate are accounts, like I mentioned, or a house. For a house, you can do what's called a transfer on death deed. And so property or undeveloped land, something where there's a deed. I think cars might also be eligible for this. I'm not sure. But you can do that for those kinds of things. But for things like property that's inside a house, furniture collections, you can't do, as far as I know, there's no way to bypass probate. If there are any attorneys on this webinar and they know differently, let me know. But if that's your plan, here's something else I would say. If you are including Animal Humane in your will, whether or not we're receiving your pet, I ask that you please share with us what you're putting in your will ahead of time. You don't have to share your entire will with me, but if you're willing to just share that section, it can be really helpful. I can then make sure that what you've included there is something that is clear. It's something that we can promise we can deliver. Sometimes I've made suggested edits in how things are worded to make them more clear and more workable. So that's a suggestion maybe to keep in mind.
And that looks like all the questions we have.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. We'll be getting the follow-up email out. I'm not sure if that'll be today or Monday. It kind of depends on how long it takes to get the video uploaded, but we will be sending that to you because we do have your information. So thanks again and have a great day and a great weekend.